Have the Falcons already laid the groundwork for their defensive success with their 2024 draft class?
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another illustrious episode of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay tuned for the Armada Player of the Week later in today's show. So if you do not know me, I'm your very humble host, Aaron Freeman, aka Mr. Drew, aka the iron that sharpens the iron, aka Mr. AKA, and I've been covering the Atlanta Falcons for almost 2 decades, formerly at FalcFans.com, RIP, still going strong on this podcast, and I thank each and every one of you that goes strong with me as everydayers. That means you make this podcast your first listen each and every day, and all you have to do to become an everydayer, subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So today's episode, we will be talking with Jarvis Davis of Locked On Sports Atlanta about how special teams may be the key to success and the path to success for the Falcons this upcoming season. Is the Trey Hendrickson trade talk back on, given the latest sniping in the media between two entities? But we got to start off with sort of the big news of this week and get Jarvis's thoughts on that, which is all the various quotes that came from Raheem Morris and Arthur Blank at the NFL's owners meetings earlier this week. And so, Jarvis, I ask you, given, whether it's Clark Phillips playing nickel or Ryan Newsel playing center or the upcoming draft class, and is it going to be defense? Are they looking at other positions? What for you was sort of the thing that stood out the most from all the various sound bites and quotes from Raheem or Arthur Blank when it came to these owners? What was for you your biggest takeaway from some of those sound bites?
I believe that Raheem Morris is a big time believer in Terry Fontenot and his front office and how they've constructed this roster, right? Like the guys that they have on this roster currently. And given the situation they were in and financially, they really couldn't go out and spend like that as far as the free agency class goes. But it seems like Raheem is banking on this 2024 draft class to just really come out the gates and say, hey, guys, remember us? Our plan for them, whatever that was, worked out, and I think that to be dependent on guys like Ruka Rororo or Brandon Dorlus and Braylon Trice, who's coming off an injury, who no one really knows where he stands physically and if he even going to be able to contribute this year, right? So it's just so many variables as to the guys they have on this roster, and a lot of them are in that 2024 draft class who gave you absolutely settle last year. It just kind of amazes me a little bit that he's like really banking and really believing that, hey man, the guys that Terry brought in last year, they're going to be the guys that's going to be like our 2025 free agent class. Those are the guys that are going to help us get to the place where we need to be defensively. And I said it's not far, because this offense is going to score 26 points. They're going to average 26 points this year. That's where I feel they should be. That's my expectation for this offense. They should be able to score 26 points easily this year going forward. And then all they need is a defense that can help close out games. Defenses that can help close out games, sacking the quarterback when a team is forced to go be a one-way team, right? They have one-way goal defense. They have to pass the ball to catch up. And they're going to live happily ever after and make it to the playoffs. So, but yeah, it was very interesting that the confidence that he exuded talking about that 2024 draft class as if they're going to be the Avengers to carry this defense to the promised land, which is the playoffs.
So I'm curious, where do you fall on the whole, because one of the things I've said a lot on this podcast over time is like actions speak louder than words, and where we can hear Raheem Morris say all this thing and say how much confidence he has in this, 2024 draft class and what they're going to contribute in 2024. But ultimately, does that lead to them being a little less aggressive, filling some of these holes in the defense? I had a Locked On Falcons Insider basically message me and say, like, I'm worried based off of Raheem's quotes that they're not going to, invest in the pass rush and on that defense early in the draft. So I'm curious, where do you sort of stand on the actions versus words aspect of what Raheem is saying?
I believe that he's truly focused on a defensive side of the football. I mean, I'm not big, and those are through his actions, right? Like him being at Mike Green's pro day, that means a lot to me. Him being at the Ohio State's pro day, that means a lot to me. I know people can all the Falcons antagonists. I know y'all exist. Hey, we was at Kelvin Banks' private workout. Yeah, okay, yeah. There's a need there too. At some point you got to address that as well. But I feel like being at a pro day for Mike Green and giving his background, maybe I'm putting a lot into it because I want it to be true, but I feel like, him being there and being able to really put his hands on Mike and talk to Mike and potentially go to dinner with Mike and have those conversations about, hey man, what happened here, bro? Like, tell me what the deal is, because I need to know, because I know what you can potentially bring on the field. I just need to be sure that Atlanta, you're going to be able to deal with Atlanta, because we know not every person coming into the league can deal with coming into Atlanta with a whole poop ton of money and being a first round draft pick and my face potentially being on billboards because, hey, I'm the new guy. I'm coming here to save this team. I'm coming here to sack the quarterback. And you actually go through with that. Ask Mike Vick how that worked out. It's a lot that comes with that in this city, specifically outside of other cities that aren't like this one. There's only one, really, if we've been keeping it funky. So I feel like that means a lot for him to personally go out there and get his eyes on a guy like that, because we know if he's available at 15, it makes sense for the Falcons to take him.
Yeah. So we will see if the Falcons go down that road in round one, but maybe they don't have to necessarily feel as compelled to take that pass rusher in round one, because maybe, just maybe, the whole Trey Hendrickson trade talk that we spent a lot of time on this podcast, Jarvis and myself, talking about, like 3-4 weeks ago, it seemed like that got a little quiet, but maybe things are heating back up, and we'll break into that as we continue today's Locked On Falcons. The Armada Player of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, we're going to take a look at a draft prospect and pick one that stands apart, the guy that we believe showcased the strength and power needed to push the Falcons forward as we look ahead to next season. In this week's Armada and Clear Cut Player of the Week is Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall. You probably look at Mike Green as this sleek, slippery pass rusher, but we saw at the Senior Bowl down in Mobile the power element to his game. When he laid those hands on Josh Connolly Jr., the Oregon offensive tackle, and put him on the turf, he showed that heavy-duty ruggedness that you need to get after the quarterback. And when it comes to the Nissan Armada, we say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what I think Mike Green can do here in Atlanta. It's clear that Mike Green, our Player of the Week, is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in an all-new Nissan Armada or any of their outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure at shopnissanusa.com. So, Jarvis, I'm asking, is the Trey Hendrickson trade talk that seemed to go quiet for a couple of weeks bubbling back up to the surface? Because for those of you that missed it, at the owners meeting, probably the biggest story, at least for me, no offense to the Falcons, but I don't care about what they're doing. But one of the big
pages of notes that doesn't entice you, that doesn't tickle your fancy.
No, it does not. I'm sorry,
okay.
It does not. But Trey Hendrickson was on the Pat McAfee show earlier this week, basically in response to something that Katie Blackburn, the Bengals VP and their chief contract negotiator, said at the owners meeting when she was asked about the Trey Hendrickson situation and where that status is, and just kind of paraphrasing what she said, and my interpretation of what she said was that there's a number / price that he should be happy with, referring to Trey Hendrickson, basically saying that the reason why a deal isn't done makes it sound like that's a him problem, not a we problem, right? And then of course Trey Hendrickson goes on the McAfee show being like, there hasn't been that much communication between my agent in the Cincinnati Bengals, to get a deal done, basically since the year started, right? Where we went through this sort of situation back in early March where it was like, hey, Trey, go shop yourself and see if you can get a deal. But most teams, when they called the Bengals about it, they were like, the Bengals were like, hey, we'll take a first round pick for it. And everybody's like, all right, Cincinnati, calm down. Right.
And pay $35 million a year.
No. And so, I think after the Jamar Chase and T Higgins deals got done nearly 3 weeks ago, there was a lot of talk after that a Trey Hendrickson deal was inevitable. Right. And I came on the pod and I said, I don't know if this is inevitable because of that whole trade conversation, that if they were close to getting a deal done, they would have never given him permission to shop himself out there. So I asked you, Jarvis, we're 3 weeks out from the draft. Do you remain hopeful that maybe the Falcons can make a phone call to the Cincinnati Bengals and entice them to, potentially come down on that first round draft price? Or do you feel like this ship has sailed?
I feel like this is perfect timing. I feel like Trey Hendrickson should thank his agent, because I'm sure that they knew that Miss Blackburn would be asked these questions. And it's no coincidence that he went on the Pat McAfee show not too long after these comments came out. Right. So for me, all this means is Terry better warm up that T-Mobile, baby. You know what I'm saying? Warm up that phone. Put some batteries in that bad boy. Plug it in. Put your charge in, because it's about to be a nice little ride to this draft. Because when you understand where the Bengals are they traditionally don't pay guys. And then they forked over all this bread to the wide receiver spot. Not one, but two. T. Higgins is the highest paid wide receiver 2 ever in league history. No second wide receiver ever made this type of money. And he came from the Bengals. So you mean to tell me that the Bengals are then going to go out and say, hey, Trey, we know you were the runner-up to defensive player of the year last year. We're going to reward you with a $30+ million contract. No, sir. No, ma'am. That's not happening. And Trey even said it himself. He said the communication has been awful. So for me, and the only communication you really got was, hey, go see if somebody can go trade. So yeah, to me, all that means is the deadline is, you can probably mark that bad boy at the trade at the NFL draft, that something is probably going to happen with this particular situation. And I feel like the Bengals paying T. Higgins and Jamar Chase all that bread, that's not going to be what they are going forward. I think they're going to fall back to the means when it comes to Trey Hendrickson, and eventually they're going to come off that first round pick and they say, hey, give us a second or maybe even a third. We know you got to pay him, but we're not going to pay him. So let's get some compensation potentially on draft night, and let's work it out. Let's figure this thing out and let's move forward. So yeah, this does nothing but tell me that, hey, it's on. It's on. Make the phone calls, warm up your batteries, warm up your phone, plug it in, plug the iPhone up, Android. I don't know. Terry seems like he might be an iPhone type guy. I can see that. I can see him being an iPhone type guy. So yeah, get your iPhone ready. Get that little charger. Make sure you don't buy one from the grocery store, because you know how them joints do to your phone. It might mess it up. I know about all the issues with iPhones, because those are the reasons why I'm an Android man. So anyway, but yeah, Terry, get ready, because it's going down or it's going up. Let's be positive about this thing.
Okay, I too am an Android man, so I'm looking forward to the
I do.
war in the comments where people being like, "Oh, all the iPhone people be like, oh, of course, Jarvis and Aaron are Android people," and then all the Android, So I'm looking forward to that. So
Yes.
thank you
Yes.
for putting that out there, Jarvis.
Of
So
course.
we can let's hash
We
it out in
Kendrick
the comments.
Spears free. You know what I'm saying? Most people probably don't believe that. We are Kendrick Spears, my brother.
There you go. There you go. That's Well, anyway, judge whatever you want to judge based off of the color of your text message on your phone or whatever, as people want to do. But it's interesting with the Trey Hendrickson thing. I've always been skeptical whether a deal would get done with the Falcons specifically, just because of the limited draft capital, because of the limited cap space. All of those are factors against the Falcons. But it is one of those things where all during his time, it has been like, the Falcons need something to move the needle, and we're sort of relying on at this point that first round pick to kind of move the needle for this pass rush. And Maria Martin said it earlier today on Thursday on the Atlanta Football Party, where there's going to be a lot of expectations for that potential first round pick that we definitely know is going to happen here. And like, that's probably not fair to that guy, where that person's going to be expected to kind of single-handedly fix the pass rush, similar to, when the Falcons took Vic Beasley, a decade ago, where he was kind of built, he's the next John Abraham and he's going to be the difference maker. And then, when he had that season that he had in 2016, everybody was like, see, I told you, this guy's going to be a star. And then
on up, baby.
Just kept trending downward the rest of the way. And it was just like, all right, didn't quite work out, even though, he still outproduced a lot of the guys that the Falcons brought in, to upgrade that spot. Like, he had 8 sacks
any day.
Yeah, he had 8 sacks his last year, and didn't have that dog in him. And then they brought in Dante Fowler, and he had 7.5 sacks over 2 years, and it was like,
and then got double-digit sacks with the Commanders last year.
Yeah,
but back to your point about the I don't want to go down the road, bro. You see how they brought my level down?
Darkness, hello, darkness, my old friend. Yeah.
We keeping this piled up, baby. Okay. All 39 minutes we about to get into.
Yeah.
I'm just playing, y'all. We're not gonna go 35 minutes long. I promise you. We're not publish it if it was that long. Yes, he does edit. Just know he does edit when dealing with your boy. But no, man, I think as far as the big story, here's why I feel like this Trey Hendrickson thing can happen. What if after that first round, all the quarterback situations are pretty clear, right? And the Browns come a calling. Browns say, hey, big head, how about a 5th round pick for Kirk? And Kirk says, oh, who's up there? Oh, isn't Kevin, my boy Kevin Kev? He the head coach, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go ahead and wait there, no trade. You know what I'm saying? And that was what part of the, notes that I gave, Arthur Blank. Say, hey, man, I got some familiarity with Cleveland. So Cleveland, I know y'all were trying to trade with Deshaun, you know what I'm saying? So we know you know y'all number. We know that y'all know their number. So, give them a call. You know what I'm saying? So if they end up working it out to where they get rid of Kirk Cousins and that night, and Cleveland says, hey, we'll pay some of that salary too. Oh, cool. Okay, cool. The Falcons have a lot of cap space in 26. So I'm sure they can finesse a way to work trades, the rest of trades deal, and then work out that extension, man, and get that thing going. Because, like I said, the Bengals aren't all of a sudden about to become big spenders. I don't believe that. I believe it when I see it, because they waited so long. This man said, I asked for more guaranteed bread 3 years ago, and they've been playing around. And guess what? Myles Garrett making $40+ million a year. That's what premier pass rushers. The price of the brick done went up. Y'all waited too long. And I'm not gonna get into drug references because I love The Wire. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite series of all time. And we will go 39 minutes long if I start talking about The Wire. But I think that will be the big night of that would be the big story of the night for the Falcons if they were somehow the way to figure out how to get rid of Kirk Cousins. And I believe that they will be in business if they're able to do that, because this is an issue. All right. I'm sure they want to get this situation settled, because they don't want to be answering questions, dog, in the spring and then mess around summer camp. He's still on the doggone roster. They don't want to answer questions about Kirk and what he's doing and are you comfortable with him? Like, I don't want to hear comfortable conversations no more. Like, I want to hear tangible or see tangible results. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to feel the difference in this team as they get ready for the 2025 season.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, basically the point I was trying to make earlier was just like they need something that's going to move the needle.
Sure.
For their defense and their pass rush. And, putting that all on the first round pick or whatever, is not fair. And Trey Hendrickson is the type of guy that will definitely move the needle. And it just goes back to, like, you go back to 6 months ago in August or 8 months ago, whatever it was, where, the Falcons bring in Justin Simmons and Matthew Judon. It's like, oh, okay, like they're doing stuff. We're excited. It didn't work out, but it's just like, I don't want to spend the 4 months after the draft being like, all right, they're not really doing, like I give me something, give me something. And again, the first round pick will be something, but like, just give me a little bit more to at least go, okay, like this season isn't all on Michael Penix to have to put the team on his back and as you said, score 26, 27 points every single week in order for this team to have a chance to win football games and have to get into all these shootouts or whatever. And if they do get into these shootouts, have somebody on the defensive side of the ball that can stop anybody. But we will see. Go ahead.
I think I figured it out, man. You want some of that blue magic, don't you? You want? Yeah, I can see it in your eyes, dog. Like, you got that sparkle, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? When you talk about pass rush, I see that sparkle in your eye. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just trying to get a fix. That's all. That's all I want. I got these blue tops. I got these red tops. Anyway, guys, let's move on before we get in trouble and talk about if the defense and the pass rush isn't going to be the big X factor that's going to help the Falcons win some of these games, maybe it's going to be special teams. And the Falcons have a new kicker. And is this the end of the Younghoe Koo era? And we'll break that down as we continue today's Locked On Falcons. So, Jarvis, the Falcons added a new kicker since we last spoke. So, point blank, is this the end of the Younghoe Koo era in Atlanta?
As much as you believe that I want Younghoe Koo to be off this team, even though I did want him off this team,
you did.
I did want, but that's heat of the moment stuff, man.
I got you.
As time goes along, time heals all wounds. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't gonna say I forgive him, but hey man, you were hurt. I guess you're getting older. I guess. But, Lenny brings competition. Lenny brings, I can't be comfortable coming into this season as being the guy, because you didn't earn that last year. He did not earn being the guy last year. So for them to sign a young guy who looks promising, I know his numbers weren't all that great in the past couple seasons playing overseas. But we need that. Bring that competition in, man. Say, hey, you don't know this, bro. If you don't perform and do what we expect you to do when we paid you a few years ago, hey, man, you got to go, Jack. That's just how the NFL works, man. Like, ain't no love lost. We appreciate you, what you've done for us, but hey, man, it's all about what you've done for me lately. And I feel like the Lenny Craig signing speaks to that.
Yeah. When you were of the mind that Younghoe Koo has to go, I was of the mind like, let's see if he bounced back. You got to bring in some competition.
Sure.
And they did that. So it's like, okay, like
that's what that was.
Yeah,
Riley was legitimate.
I mean, no, Riley wasn't.
No, okay. I just want to clarify, bro. I just want to make sure I ain't putting the words in your mouth.
Riley had one shot to basically say, okay, Riley, maybe you could be the competition that we need, and Riley blew his shot. So, it's Lenny's turn. So we'll see what Lenny can do. I think this will be a legit competition. I know you spoke on the Atlanta Football Party a lot to Sports Atlanta that you're a big fan of competition. So we'll see how it all hashes out. I still think Koo is the favorite, but we'll see how it all works out. But this is all part of an off-season process where it feels like the Falcons have invested a significant portion of what limited resources they've had in terms of cap space and free agent pickups into special teams, bringing in guys like Lenny Craig and Mike Ford and Jamal Agnew and sort of replacing some of these players that the Falcons had in some of these spots and potentially competing with some of these guys that they're retaining in some of these spots. Is the Falcons formula for success that high-powered offense that you mentioned earlier, a good enough defense given whatever additions that they make in the draft and beyond, and then just sort of we're going to dominate the field position battle? And do you think that's a formula for success to get this team to where we haven't seen this team get over the last 7 years, which is a winning record and potentially winning this division and making the playoffs?
I mean, any way that you can get better in one phase of the game can put you in a position to put you over the top, right? Because they've been middling, right? It's like the prime definition of it, right? So I feel like I can point to maybe 2 games. One of them was the Saints game, like I mentioned earlier. You can point to another game too, where it's like, man, a made field goal here or an extra 10 yards on this return. So the offense doesn't have to go 75 yards to doggone get into the end zone, drive the length of the field. Yeah, there were times where I looked at Avery Williams, man. I was like, man, you came to fair catch king. What was the other cat? Brandon. Oh, he was a returner. He's always called fair catch every time.
Powell? Was it Brandon Powell?
Brandon Powell, yes. Brandon Powell, yes. So he became Brandon Powell to me in my eye. I was like, dang, bro, like, are you gonna try to return? You had an opportunity. There was some space between you and the defender when you caught the football, dude. Like, you could literally put your eyes down, like, oh, he's about 1 or 2 yards away from me. So I could have maybe have done something. So yeah. I think that Raheem Morris kind of spoke to it. He was like, he made the best decisions for our team. That means he protected the football, and that's it. And to be honest with you, I don't care about. I care about protecting the football, but what I care about, what I want to hear about my returner is this dude is in a space where he can doggone take a chance that I might not necessarily want him to do. But oh my gosh, once he takes that chance, it's because he sees something and he's able to do something with the football. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it, man. I don't. I'm cool with them bringing in that, putting the emphasis on a special team, because I feel like you win 2 out of 3 on a Sunday, you can win the game. You put yourself in a really good spot to win the football game.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Saints game. That second Saints game, we point to special teams with Younghoe Koo missing some field goals as that cost them the game. But you could argue the first Saints game that, with the, what was it, the Kadero Hodge touchdown or whatever it was? Yeah. Special teams and defense won them that game the first time around because the offense was struggling so much. So you sort of
Anderson game. That's the Anderson game.
Yeah.
The only one that we can speak of.
Hey, with Divine Diablo, he's back on special teams, baby. It's all gonna work out, Jarvis. It's all gonna work out, man. He's gonna be balling out, blocking punts again. It's gonna be glorious. Man,
all that, bro. Yeah, special teams wonder. That was drafted in the second round.
That's what the second round picks are all about, man. It's special team superstars, Jarvis. That's what it's all about.
I don't want to go down this road with you. Because I want to believe you. You know what I'm saying? You said with such confidence. Like, I believe that you really believe that.
You got to take what you can get at this point, Jarvis, with the Falcons draft picks. Like, if all I'm going to get is 2 block punts and a fumble recovery from Trey Hendrickson on punt team, I'll take that. It's more than what he's done the last 2 years.
See, I'm starting to learn a lot about you, man. Being on here every week, I'm learning a lot about you, Free. It seems like to me, and you can course correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm saying this with love, you don't mind lowering your standards, bro. I see that.
I mean, look, Jarvis, I'm a Falcon fan, so I feel like it's part of rooting for this team and watching this team, where it's just like sometimes you just can't have nice things, and sometimes you just gotta be like, hey man, this discount bargain bin, whatever I'm getting, beggars cannot be choosers. Yeah, that reduced meat. Yeah. That manager.
There's always a certain type of meat that's in that bin too. Like those little pork loins, what I'm saying, the cheap ones, the cheap pork loins, they always be over there. I'm like, why they always got these on sale?
Yeah.
I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me the brisket, baby. Like, go back to the brisket. Can we get the brisket at a reduced price? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, to your point, yeah, I understand, man. But sometimes, man, you gotta have a standard, man. You gotta be like these modern day women.
I do, like, hey, and then I watch the Falcons, and I'm like, okay, well, what I wanted is not they're not giving me what I wanted, so I'll just take what I can get. So,
golly, man, God, that sounds like the relationship, marriages issue of the day. Like, no, it's okay to have standards. You know what I'm saying? But you're being realistic. Let me say that you're being realistic about it. I get it because I've been out on Trey Hendrickson, so
I know.
I've been out.
Everybody knows.
That's what makes people know. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that is not a secret.
I was never in, really.
Yes, I know. You were never in.
I'm like, hey, man, I ain't got nothing to do with that, bro. Like, people start complaining about Trey Hendrickson. I'm like, hey, man, look, I ain't want the man, and he gave me one good game that I can remember. I know he had the block point. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff. One good game playing defense. Saints, first game, 2024. So, when was he drafted? 20. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. There you go. All right, guys. I feel like we're all in a better place today at the end of today's episode. So,
that's the point of talking about these things, so you can be in a better place once you finish listening to the show. That's the whole point of this thing. You know what I'm saying?
Special teams
win it together.
Yeah. Special teams matters. That's Michael Penix, Trey Hendrickson trades. It's still a possibility. We'll see.
Okay.
There's hope.
It's still there.
There's still hope. I'm just, we'll see. But if you guys want to continue to be hopeful, make sure you continue to watch the illustrious and listen to the illustrious Locked On Falcons podcast by subscribing or following for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Of course, we'll be back with any sort of breaking news over the weekend, but of course we'll be back on Monday with a mock draft Monday, looking potentially at, offensive tackles as a possible first round pick. So continue to make Locked On Falcons your first listen. And for your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Draft podcast. Damian Parson, Keith Sanchez, getting you guys geared up for what will be a very entertaining and interesting first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.